Dorothy McAllister, everyone called her Dot, stood on the wide porch of the ranch house staring out at the endless Montana sky. At 72, she still wore her weathered cowboy hat tilted just so, her silver hair braided down her back like in the old photos with her husband, Harlan. The Double M Ranch sprawled across 10,000 acres outside Bozeman, rolling hills, grazing black Angus cattle, and underground mineral rights that had turned a modest cattle operation into a small fortune when natural gas was discovered a decade ago. Harlan had died 3 weeks ago. The doctor called it a stroke, sudden, massive, no warning. Dot had found him in the barn, slumped against a hay bale, his hand still clutching a branding iron from the spring calf work. She'd buried him up on the hill, overlooking the pasture, next to his father and grandfather. But to understand Harlan and why his death cut so deep, why Dot fought like hell afterward, you had to go back. Harlan McAllister was born in 1953, right there on the Double M, in the same bedroom where he and Dot would later raise their son Wade. His great-grandfather, Angus McAllister, had staked the claim in 1892, part of the wave of homesteaders who flooded Montana after the gold rush faded and the railroads opened the land. Angus came from Scotland via Texas, trailing longhorns up the Bozeman Trail, dodging Blackfoot raids and brutal winters that could freeze a man solid overnight. He built the original cabin with logs from the Gallatin River, married a Crow woman named Lily who taught him the land's secrets, where the grass grew thickest, how to read the wind for storms. Harlan's grandfather, Elias, expanded it during the early 1900s. Those were the boom years for Montana cattle. Open range, no fences, herds mingling across the plains. Elias survived the Dust Bowl droughts of the 1930s by switching to hardier breeds and digging irrigation ditches by hand. He fought in World War I, came back with a limp and a Silver Star, and passed the ranch to Harlan's father, Thomas, just as the Great Depression bit hard. Thomas McAllister was a stoic man, shaped by the 1940s. He served in the Pacific during World War II, island hopping with the Marines, and returned to find the ranch on the brink, taxes unpaid, cattle prices cratered. He married Harlan's mother, a school teacher from Billings, and rebuilt it through sheer grit. Thomas introduced Black Angus in the 1950s when Montana ranchers were modernizing, using trucks instead of horses for roundups and barbed wire to section the land. But life was tough. Blizzards that buried fences, market crashes in the 60s when beef imports flooded in, and endless debt to the banks. Harlan grew up in that world. As a boy, he rode herd before dawn, learned to castrate calves at age 10, and fixed tractors with baling wire. School was a one-room affair in winter, but summers were all ranch, branding, haying, fighting grass fires. He was tall even then, with the McAllister blue eyes and a quiet laugh that could disarm a bar fight. Harlan taught him the code. Land don't owe you nothing. You owe it. Harlan dreamed of college, maybe veterinary science, but the draft came in 1971, Vietnam. He served 2 tours as a grunt in the 101st Airborne, humping through jungles, dodging VC ambushes. He came home in 73 with shrapnel scars on his leg and nightmares that woke him sweating for years. No parades for him, just back to the ranch where Thomas handed him more responsibility as age caught up. That's when he met Dot. She was Dorothy Ellis then, a fiery 20-year-old from a neighboring sheep ranch studying animal husbandry at Montana State. They met at a rodeo in Livingston. Harlan roping steers, Dot barrel racing. She beat him in a friendly bet and he bought her a beer. They married in 1975, in the ranch yard under cottonwoods turning gold. Dot brought new blood. She pushed for sustainable grazing, rotated pastures to prevent overgrazing, and convinced Harlan to diversify with some sheep alongside the cattle, a nod to Montana's dual heritage, where sheep wars had once bloodied the range in the early 1900s. Together, they weathered the storms. The 1980s farm crisis nearly bankrupted them, sky-high interest rates, plummeting cattle prices. Harlan sold off 2,000 acres to keep the core. They raised Wade in 77, teaching him to ride before he walked. But Wade was different, bookish, restless, always talking about big city money. Harlan tried, took him on cattle drives, showed him how to read the weather by the curl of a cow's tail, but Wade left for college and never looked back. The turning point came in the 2000s. Fracking boomed in Montana's Bakken Formation, but the Double M sat on quieter gas pockets. In 2012, a geologist knocked, natural gas under their land. Harlan negotiated hard, leased rights carefully to avoid ruining the grazing. Royalties poured in, enough to pay off debts, buy new equipment, even a vacation to Hawaii for their 40th anniversary. But money changed things. Wade started calling more, hinting at investments. Harlan suspected Wade's Vegas trips weren't just vacations. Rumors of gambling debts trickled back through old friends. Harlan's suspicions deepened 6 months before his death. He started feeling off, dizzy, bleeding gums, easy bruising. Dot noticed too, but he waved it off as old age creepin'. Secretly, he saw the doc in Bozeman, got blood work. Results? Anticoagulant poisoning, like rat bait. Harlan pieced it. Wade and Kayla visiting more, Kayla insisting on making his toddy. "Let me handle it, Dad, you rest." He confronted Wade once, quietly. "Son, if you're in trouble, tell me. Don't drag the family down." Wade denied it, but Harlan knew. He prepared, wrote the note, gathered financials showing forged loans against the ranch, Wade siphoning royalties, gave it to Jim Callahan, his old foreman turned deputy. "If I go sudden, protect Dot." Harlan loved the ranch, but he loved Dot more, the woman who'd stood by him through blizzards, bankruptcies, and the silent nights when Vietnam ghosts visited. Now her only son Wade and his wife Kayla had come to help. They'd arrived the day after the funeral, suitcases in hand, saying the ranch was too much for her alone. Wade, at 48, had left for the city years ago, Billings first, then Vegas for business opportunities. He'd always been the dreamer, chasing quick money while Harlan and Dot built the real thing with calloused hands and early mornings. Dot noticed things. A rancher's life taught you that. She noticed how Wade's eyes lingered at the heavy equipment in the shed, calculating values, how Kayla scrolled through real estate listings on her phone during dinner, murmuring about development potential. And she noticed the way they watched her drink her nightly hot toddy, the ritual Harlan started on cold evenings. Whiskey, honey, lemon, cloves, steaming in an old enamel mug. The first odd feeling came a month before Harlan died, when Dot started getting bone-tired, joints aching like January wind, dizzy spells that made her grip the fence posts. The doctor blamed age and grief when Harlan passed, but Dot knew her body. Something wasn't right. The turning point came at Harlan's funeral. The service was small. Ranch hands, neighbors, the sheriff's deputy who'd been Harlan's foreman for 30 years, Jim Callahan. As Dot stood by the casket in the little community hall, Jim pulled her aside. "Dot," he whispered, pressing a thick envelope into her hand. "Harlan left this in my safe, said if anything happened to him sudden, give it to you private. And whatever you do, don't tell Wade or that wife of his till you read it." Dot's blood chilled under her wool coat. She tucked the envelope inside her jacket and nodded. That night, back at the ranch house, Wade and Kayla handed her papers. "Mom, it's what Dad wanted," Wade said, voice syrupy with concern. "Power of attorney, so we can handle the bills, the mineral leases. You shouldn't have to worry." Kayla added, "And maybe think about selling a parcel or two. The market's hot. You could move somewhere easier. No stairs, no snow to shovel." Dot said she'd sleep on it. At 2 a.m., she crept to the kitchen, lit only by moonlight, and opened Jim's envelope. Inside, a flash drive, lab reports, and a note in Harlan's scrawl. "Dot, if you're reading this, they got me. Wade's in deep. Gambling, Vegas sharks, over $2 million owed. He tried tapping the mineral accounts. I blocked him. Then I started feeling poisoned. Got blood drawn secret. Results enclosed. Watch your toddy. Kayla makes it now. I love you, darlin'. Fight for our ranch. H." The lab reports showed chronic rat poison ingestion, anticoagulant rhodocentic, slow bleeding internally mimicking stroke. Dot's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the papers. Harlan hadn't died natural. They'd killed him for the ranch, the gas royalties, the land. And now they were coming for her. She didn't cry, not yet. Ranch women don't break easy. Harlan had taught her that. Through all those years, surviving the 80s crisis, the 90s mad cow scares, even the 2008 recession when gas prices tanked. He'd say, "We bend, darlin', but we don't snap." Now she'd honor him by bending just enough to set the trap. The next morning, Dot played the part. She shuffled into the kitchen, eyes red from pretended weeping. "I didn't sleep," she said weakly, "but you're right, I'll sign those papers today." Wade and Kayla exchanged a quick, triumphant glance. "But first," Dot continued, voice trembling just enough, "I want one last real ranch evening, a branding dinner like we used to. Steaks from our beef, beans, cornbread, and Wade, could you make me a hot toddy tonight? Harlan always said you learned his recipe perfect." Wade smiled wide. "Of course, Mom, anything." Kayla beamed. "We'll make it special." Dot's heart hammered, but her face stayed soft, broken. She thought of Harlan in Vietnam, surviving ambushes by playing dead. She'd do the same. "There's just one thing," she said. "For the steaks, we need that special dry rub from Townsend Meats, 2 hours away, and the good whiskey from that distillery in Helena. I want it perfect for Harlan." They hesitated, but greed won. One more day wouldn't hurt. The old lady was crumbling. "I'll drive," Kayla said quickly. "You rest, Dot." "No," Dot insisted, frail but stubborn. "I need the air, need to see the land one more time. We'll go together, like family." They agreed. The three of them piled into Wade's flashy pickup, bought with ranch money, Dot now knew, and headed out, Dot in the back seat gazing at her pastures as if saying goodbye. She remembered Harlan proposing there, under a cottonwood. "This land's ours, Dot, forever." While they drove the winding highway arguing over which cut of steak, Dot's phone buzzed once. Jim Callahan, Keams Inn, basement window worked, full coverage. Jim had connected her with a private investigator out of Bozeman, Maria Reyes, ex-Bozeman PD, tough as boot leather. Maria's crew had slipped in while the house was empty, micro cameras in the kitchen smoke detector, the old wall clock Harlan carved in '85, even the antler chandelier from a '70s elk hunt. Microphones everywhere, plainclothes deputies in the foreman's old cabin across the field, where Harlan and Thomas had once hidden moonshine during Prohibition stories. The errand took all afternoon. Dot dawdled, tasting whiskeys, chatting with the butcher about old times, making them wait. She recalled Harlan doing the same on supply runs, teaching patience. Rush a fence, it falls. Take time, it stands. By the time they returned, dusk painted the mountains purple, like the evenings Harlan and she watched sunsets from the porch, planning expansions. Dinner smelled like heaven and hell. Thick ribeyes sizzling, Harlan's favorite cut, cast iron cornbread from her mother's recipe, beans slow-cooked with bacon like during the '80s lean years. They ate in the big dining room, Harlan's empty chair at the head like a ghost. Dot picked at her food, talking softly about memories. Harlan teaching Wade to rope at age 5, the year they saved the herd in the '88 blizzard. By riding out in -40 degrees, Harlan's war stories he rarely shared, like the time he saved his platoon by spotting a tripwire. Wade shifted uncomfortably. Kayla kept refilling Dot's water glass. After plates were cleared, Wade stood. "I'll make that toddy now, Mom." Dot's pulse raced, but she smiled. "Thank you, son." In her mind, Harlan's voice. "Steady, darlin'." In the kitchen, cameras rolling, Maria and the deputies watching live feed 2 miles away, and a surveillance van disguised as a feed truck. Wade boiled water. Kayla handed him the whiskey bottle, and from her pocket, a small plastic vial. Rat poison pellets, crushed fine, the same that killed Harlan, mimicking the internal bleeds Thomas had seen in poisoned cattle back in the '50s. "Don't forget Mom's special sweetener," Kayla whispered just loud enough. "We need her relaxed for signing tomorrow." Wade nodded. He tapped the powder into the mug. 3 careful measures, stirred in honey, lemon, cloves. The steam rose innocent, like the ones Harlan made after long days. He carried it to the living room where Dot sat by the fire, the same hearth Harlan built in '76 from Riverstones. "Here you go, Mom, just like Dad made it." Dot took the mug with trembling hands, real trembling now. The smell of whiskey and lemon filled her nose, same as 1,000 happy nights with Harlan, after birthing Wade, after striking gas, after surviving cancer in '95. She raised it to her lips, then deliberately let her wrist go slack. The mug tipped, scalding liquid splashing across the pine floor Harlan laid himself, soaking her jeans. "Oh Lord," she cried, jumping up. "I'm so sorry, I'm shaking like a leaf, ruined it." Wade's face flashed fury, then smoothed into concern, just like Harlan described in his note. "It's fine, Mom, I'll make another." Dot dabbed at her legs with a towel. "Would you? I'm just so cold inside since your daddy." She thought of Harlan's last words to her. "If they come for you, fight smart." Kayla's eyes narrowed, but she nodded at Wade. "Do it, she's almost gone." Wade returned to the kitchen. Same ritual, same vial, 3 taps of poison. This time he brought it carefully, set it on the table beside her. "Drink up slow, Mom, it'll warm you." Dot wrapped both hands around the mug, brought it close, and hailed. She remembered Harlan's hands, scarred from wire cuts, strong from decades of work. Across the valley, Maria whispered into her radio. "We have it. Clear video, audio, chain of custody on the vial. Move in." Dot looked up at her son, at the man who'd killed his father and now tried to kill her for land and money. Land Harlan's ancestors bled for, that he defended in war and peace. Before she could speak, the front and back doors burst open. Deputies in tactical vests poured in, rifles raised. "Police! Hands in the air! Down on the ground!" Kayla screamed. Wade froze, Toddy still steaming innocently. Deputies tackled them both. The vial clattered from Kayla's pocket, seized instantly as evidence, matching Harlan's labs. Dot stood slowly, mug untouched. Wade, face down on the rug Harlan wove with Dot in '80, twisted to look at her. "Mom, you..." "She knew what you did to Harlan," she said quietly, "and what you tried to do to me. He warned me. Your daddy was smarter than you ever knew." His eyes filled with hatred, not remorse, like the loan sharks Harlan had once run off the property in '10. Kayla sobbed hysterically. "It was him, he made me." But the cameras had caught everything, just as Harlan's evidence nailed the motive. Later, in the kitchen under floodlights while evidence techs worked, Jim Callahan hugged Dot. "You did it, Dot. Harlan would be proud." She looked out the window at the dark pastures, the big sky full of stars, same view Harlan loved. She said, "I didn't do it for pride. I did it for the ranch, for what we built. They weren't taking our last ride." 6 months later, the trial was swift. Video evidence, toxicology matching Harlan's secret tests, financial records showing Wade's $2 million debt to Vegas sharks. It was airtight. Both got life without parole. Dot sold a small parcel to cover legal fees, kept the rest. She hired a new foreman, Jim's son, and rode the pastures every morning at dawn, just like Harlan taught her. On the anniversary of Harlan's death, she rode up to his grave, hot toddy in her saddle thermos, delicious, made with her own hands, no poison. She poured a little on the ground for him. "Here's to you, old man," she whispered to the wind. We kept the ranch, and under that endless Montana sky, Dorothy McAllister took her last ride? No, just the next one. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content.